is going on, guys? Coming at you again, another solo video. If you saw my squat one, very similar setup here, but I'm gonna actually go over my deadlift. So empty bar warm up, all my build up sets up to my working sets. So for today, relatively easy day because I'm dealing with a little issue on my upper back. So deadlift seems to be one that is not allowing me to go too heavy. But we're gonna build up, hit a couple sets of 3 at 405-ish, 182 kilos, and then I'm gonna go 1 AMRAP set. And by that, I mean not to complete failure, but to where I start to feel a little bit of breakdown. I got 6 last week on it. The goal is to get 7 or more. But any kind of breakdown of feeling my upper back not holding as tight or movement quality isn't as good, then the set's done. So that's the route we're going today. But for the warm up, like I said, if you watched my squat video, you saw how I start with the empty bar, break it down into a few different partial ranges of motion. It's the exact same thing here on the deadlift. So I'm gonna walk you through that. Once again, the biggest thing on this warm up, I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world, but it's your intent behind it. So get those feet digging hard into the ground. When you're moving, every time each movement or each range of motion here, the shoulders, the hips need to be moving up in sync together. Perfecting that movement pattern is going to turn over to when you get those heavier weights on, everything's just going to move up a little more smoothly, okay? So for starters, got our empty bar here. We're going to start what would be the bottom position. We had plates on there, so we're here about mid-shin. Everything's locked in nice and tight. All I'm going to do on this first one for 5 reps is I'm just moving up right to the bottom of the knee. Coming right back down. As you can see, shoulders, hips are moving in sync together. I'm really thinking about trying to get the legs turned on and activated here. Feet, once again, locked in. So once I get my 5 reps there, we're starting right below the knee. This time, all we're doing is going to right above the knee. So even shorter range of motion here, but what I would say is potentially the most important part. A lot of times when people get out to their deadlift and they get here, that bar gets away from them. As soon as those knees get clear, that you can get those knees back under, get that bar right against your thigh, you're gonna stay in your legs, transfer right to the hips, and we're gonna avoid any kind of pressure or pain in our lower back. So as we're pushing up right at the knee, those knees are gonna push back just a little bit, but as soon as that bar gets above the knee, we're trying to scoop right back underneath. At that scooping motion, we're also trying to use our lats to pull that bar into our thighs. So really emphasize that movement pattern on this portion. Third and final, we're starting right above the knee and just standing straight up. Squeeze the glutes as hard as you can. 5 times there. And then lastly, you're just tying all of them together. So 5 empty bar reps, make it all move nice and smoothly. And we're ready to load some weight. So as opposed to my squats, my first loaded set of deadlifts, I actually go through that partial range of motion deadlift again, but instead of 5 reps at each, I usually go 3 reps at each. Weight-wise, it's, once again, depends on where I'm at. If I'm somewhere where it's pound plates, I'm just starting at 135. Here in the garage, I've got kilo plates, so we're starting at 70 kilos, which is also, or is actually 155. But same thing, so 3 reps at each through that partial range. I'm just gonna go here with minimal to no talking so you can actually see what it looks like, okay? Once again, big thing there, intent on the movement. So everything's locked in as if I'm picking up a max effort weight. And every time, whether it's from the shin to the knee, just around the knee, or from the knee to the hip, shoulders, hips, always move up in sync to create that hinging motion. Moving on. Okay, up to 120 kilos, probably somewhere over the pounds, would be a 225. But second warm-up set here. I'm gonna be doing, other than my AMRAP set, we're hitting 2 sets of 3. So this is gonna be the first set that I'm going to do that number in. So I've got 3 reps here. Usually I'll do a pause or a slow eccentric, something just to get those muscles firing a little bit more. Today we're gonna go slow eccentric on all 3 of them, okay? So still no gear, don't have straps, no belt, nothing that I would normally wear when I get up to my working sets on the deadlifts, but 3 reps. So we are at our final warm-up set. Once again, normally if I was going, or if I was healthier, no problems that I'm dealing with right now, I probably have at least 1 or 2 more after this, but we're only working up to 405-ish today. So last warm-up set, we are at 160 kilos, which is 352 pounds. Normally this is one I'm gonna take for however many reps that I'm doing in my working sets. So once again, we're gonna go 3 reps here. This is also typically the last set before I start adding any kind of my equipment. So next set will be my first working set. I'll add the straps in, and then if I were wearing a belt, it'd be another couple sets before I put the belt on. But no more gear, or no gear yet. Final warm-up set, 160 kilos. First working set, we got the 1 plate for the deficits. To explain that as simply as possible, it helps ensure that you stay in your legs throughout the entire motion of your deadlift. Makes it a little bit more challenging to perform it, to get in a starting position well, but as long as you can maintain that, it helps you stay in your legs throughout the entirety of your deadlift. But primer set, or primer movement that we're going, we've got an overhead parallel pulse. So big thing here with these, you start with the hands right on the back of the head. As you can see, my ribs, my chest are flared. I am arching in the lower back a little bit. So the first foremost movement is pulling that down. And then all I'm doing is just pulling the band about a foot forward. Same thing here, bar moves up perfectly every time. We're going AMRAP at 185 kilos. It will not necessarily be a touch and go, but when I get to the bottom, I will not relax and have to reset. So I'll maintain tension, maintain foot pressure, but I like having to reset that starting point for every rep. Just helps ingrain that starting from the bottom every single time. So as many reps as I can. Like I said before, last week we got 6. This week we're going for anything above that. But here we go. Started breaking that last one. I can feel it about halfway up. We got 7 though. A couple reminders, a couple things we learned, a couple things we worked on. Once again, if you watch the squat video, the warm-up is pretty much the same thing. Aside from, like I said, on my first weighted set on the deadlifts, I go through that partial range for another set, typically because my weights in my deadlift are much higher or decent enough higher than that 135 or that 70 kilo set. I still want to ingrain that partial movement pattern again. So aside from that, exactly the same, quarter squat or from the ground up to the knee, squat versus deadlift. And then for the deadlift, moving around the knee, which once again, I say that is the most important part of your deadlift to be able to ingrain and get locked in properly. Once again, big thing I notice when a lot of people do that is as that weight starts coming up, once we get above the knees, that bar stays out away from them. When that happens, all that pressure goes to your back because your legs are done working at that point. Typically what happens, people get to here, their knees are pretty well already locked out, so that bar's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and you have a lot of pressure on that back to then bend yourself back up. Versus, once again, when we are getting, so the knees are pushing back, once we get above, we want to get back underneath and then get those lats turned on to pull that bar into your thighs. That way that transfer to our hips goes a lot smoother. We stay in the legs, we go to the hips to finish. So make sure we're working on that as you are building up in your deadlift. But yeah, once again, empty bar set, everything's locked in. We do however many warm-up sets we need to, minimal gear, minimal equipment, until you need it. And one thing I didn't specify in my build-up sets, but you can look back and notice I never switch my grip and I don't put on straps to my working sets. That is a key aspect, working on my grip strength. In the deadlift and a farmer's carry, if you're going heavy enough, the grip is always gonna be the limiting factor. It's gonna be the weakest muscles that you're using, especially on the deadlift. So the more we can train that grip to get nice and strong, the better off we're gonna be. I personally am not a huge fan of an alternate grip, only because of some past injuries and some issues that I personally have going on. Nothing wrong with it, other than I would say don't stick in just that one fashion. Either switch sides every other set, and then once you get to your working sets, go with what you're comfortable with. Or what I would truly recommend, go at double overhand, no hook, as long as you can. That can be your 135 set, your 225 set, and then whatever your breakups are from there. Typically, if I'm in a pounds or pound plates, I'll go 135, 225, 315, and then if I was going above 405, I would actually do a single, at least single or double at 405, still a double overhand grip, just to really get that grip fired. And then everything from there is when the straps come out. And then typically last set before my working sets when the belt comes out. So keep that in mind. Hope this helped. Give us a like and a follow, and see you guys soon.